If it's Saturday night, it is Strictly Sports NFL Saturday. Hello, friends. It's Anthony Florio flying solo this time around, as all of my esteemed colleagues are out and about here tonight. So initially, I was going to do a blog on my blog site, but then, after a lot of thought, I wanted to make sure you fans at least had something here tonight. So this is going to be the first of two videos. This one I'm flying solo, but the other video later on, I'll be joined by one of my partners in crime, Michael Bullock, as we are going to preview the WWE Hell in a Cell event from the Staples Center in Los Angeles tomorrow night. So I'll keep you posted as to when that's going to start. But for right now, NFL Saturday is here and now. It's not often I do this, but I kind of felt saucy today, so I decided to do this video. So I want to make sure you great fans don't get cheated and get you in. I want to make sure you all get your money's worth. And of course, last week we had to cancel the show because Michael Bullock was out late, and we felt that by the time he got in, it would be too late to do a show. So that's why we decided to cancel last week. And I was going to cancel again, but I just decided against my better judgment that I wanted you fans to at least get something. So that's exactly what we're going to do here tonight. So with that said, let's dive right in to this. So first game we're going to get into for week 7. But before I do that, I want to just want to give you a quick update as to who will be on the teams that are going to be on bye for this week. And I do believe that let me see. Okay, the Chicago Bears, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Denver Broncos, and the Green Bay Packers, they're all on bye for this week, so you will not be seeing them. So with that said, let's dive right in. First game we're going to talk about, the Buffalo Bills going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. This game will be at Wembley Stadium in London, England, or as Derek Ferreira likes to call it, the Cathedral of Soccer. And in the all-time series, the Buffalo Bills lead it 7-5. Last meeting was in 2013. Buffalo won that game in Jacksonville 27-20. Last meeting in Buffalo was the year before, 2012. Buffalo also won that 34-18. And Jacksonville last beat Buffalo in 2010. That game was in Buffalo, 36-26. And Jacksonville last beat Buffalo at home in 2009, 18-15. But this game is not in Buffalo or Jacksonville. It's in London, England. It'll be on, it will only be on CBS, CBS rather. It'll only be on CBS for those of you who live in the Buffalo and Jacksonville area. And, excuse me, it was also, but this game's going to make history. It'll be the first time that an NFL game will be streaming on several online media platforms, such as Yahoo and all that. So only the folks in Buffalo and Jacksonville will get the game on TV. So that's all there is to it. And calling the game for CBS will be Kevin Harlan, Rich Gannon, and Jamie Erdahl, formerly of Nesson. She used to work at Nesson, used to be the sideline reporter for the Boston Bruins. And according to the spread, the Buffalo Bills are the favorites. They're 4 to 4.5 point favorites against Jacksonville. So tell you what, Buffalo coming off a tough loss against the Cincinnati Bengals a week ago in Buffalo, 34-21. Jacksonville, I can't remember the last time we saw them. Actually, it was a week ago. That's right. They also played last week. They lost to the Houston Texans at home. So, of course, the Buffalo Bills, Tyrod Taylor looks like he's going to be out again. And I believe E.J. Manuel is going to be getting the start once again. And Sammy Watkins is battling an injury as far as I know. But I think it could be an interesting game, though, because, Jacksonville has hung in there. They've had some tough luck losses. I mean, I think they're an improved team. But thing is, though, I still don't feel them. I mean, I don't think they can beat Buffalo. Because I think Manuel will have a solid game, though. We'll see about LaShawn McCoy. Maybe he'll have a good game. I'm hoping for that as a Bills fan. Percy Harvin, the receiving core, Robert Woods, and whatnot. So I'll take the chance. And Charles Clay, the tight end, who's been a great pickup from Miami. So I'm very pleased about that. But at the end, I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills to win this game. I say Buffalo wins this one. I'm going to go 24-20. The Buffalo Bills over the Jacksonville Jaguars in London, England, at Wembley Stadium tomorrow morning. Well, it'll be breakfast with the NFL, if you will. So give me Buffalo 24-20. Next game on the docket, the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Detroit Lions. This will be at Ford Field in Detroit, and it will be on Fox. And calling the game for Fox will be none other than Chris Myers, Rondé Barber, and Jennifer Hale. And three spreads I'm reading have this as a pick'em game. One spread has Minnesota by 1, another has Minnesota by 1.5, and another has Minnesota by 3. So Minnesota 1-3 on some spreads. Other spreads have this as a pick'em game. So that's all there is on that. So Minnesota Vikings 3-2 on the year. Last time we saw them, they defeated the Kansas City Chiefs 16-10, and the Detroit Lions picking up their first win of the season here. Finally getting off the schneid. They defeated the Chicago Bears 37-34 in overtime. Very exciting game. 5-star classic, chock full of Shakespearean drama in that. So looking at the series history between these two, I do believe Minnesota leads the all-time series with these two, if I'm not at all mistaken. Just give me a moment to check my notes. I know Minnesota leads it. I just want to be absolutely positive on that. And yes, they do. Minnesota leads the all-time series 69-36 with two ties. One tie in 1964 in Detroit, and the other was in 1967 in Minnesota. And the recent history between these two, last year the Detroit Lions actually swept this series, winning in both Detroit and Minnesota. They won 17-3 in Minnesota and 16-14 in Detroit. And I do believe they met earlier this year. I believe this is already their second meeting. I know they met earlier this year, and I do believe the Minnesota Vikings won that game. I think that was in Minnesota. I think that was a 26-16 final, as I recall. So, yeah, tough one to call, if I'm going to be honest. I mean, Detroit, good one of the disappointments in the NFL this year. I mean, only one win to their credit this year, coming off that big win against Chicago. Definitely been a hard times ridden season for the Lions and their fans. And Minnesota, 3-2. Yeah, they did meet earlier this year. I am right on that. That was a 26-16 victory over the Lions at TCF Bank Stadium on the campus of the University of Minnesota. Vikings in that game, Detroit forced Minnesota, I should say, forced 3 Detroit turnovers and recorded 1 sack of Matthew Stafford. Teddy Bridgewater, an efficient game, not the greatest, but it was efficient. 14 of 18, 153 and a touchdown, a rating of 120.6. Adrian Peterson, 134 yards rushing to lead the running game, and Kyle Rudolph had a receiving touchdown, and Peterson actually was the leading receiver as well with 58 yards. So he had 192 all-purpose yards, but no touchdowns in that win. And the defense definitely stepped up, had a big game. Also had an interception of Matthew Stafford. Justin Trudeau had the interception, and the 1 sack was Everson Griffin, had the lone sack of Matthew Stafford in that Week 2 game. And, so Zach Line had a rushing touchdown in that game. Blair Walsh had a couple of field goals. Teddy Bridgewater also had a rushing touchdown in that game. And, outgained Detroit 350-323 in that game and held the ball for 31-06. Detroit had it for 28-54. So that's it on that. But Minnesota did commit 10 penalties for 97 yards, and the Lions 6 penalties for 39. So those are the numbers from that Week 2 meeting they had in Minnesota. I think it might be a little bit different this time around. I mean, this is a little tougher game to call, if I'm being quite honest with you. Because of the fact that, Detroit finally got off the schneid and got that first win. And, of course, I just want to see who I have on my my pick'em list. I know I had Buffalo. I know that for sure. Oh, okay. thought about it. It's a tough one to call, really. Would I be surprised if Detroit won this game? Absolutely not. I mean, especially after what they did against Chicago a week ago. But I just got this feeling about Minnesota right now, especially after their win against Kansas City. So I'm going to take a chance, and I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings to win this game. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You know my motto on that. I'll go 24-21. That's going to be my final score. I say 24-21, the Minnesota Vikings over the Detroit Lions at Ford Field in Minnesota, or I should say in Detroit tomorrow night. So, well, afternoon rather. So, yeah, bear with me. I do have some jitters because, I'm not used to hosting solo, but, it is what it is on that. All right, next game. New Orleans Saints going up against the Indianapolis Colts, Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, the location. This game will be on Fox as well. And calling this game for Fox will be, I do believe, yes, it is Sam Rosen, who is filling in for Kevin Burkhardt while he hosts the baseball playoff coverage for Fox. Normally it would be Kevin Burkhardt in this spot along with John Lynch and Pam Oliver, but it's Sam Rosen who's taking the reins in that. So it's Sam Rosen, John Lynch, Pam Oliver. Majority of the country will be getting this game, including us here in Rhode Island. We're getting this game on our local Fox affiliate, and I'm very pleased about that because I think this can be a really good matchup. And the odds, I do believe Indianapolis is the favorite in this game. 4 to 4.5 is the spread in favor of the Colts. Last time we saw the Colts, of course, they were defeated by the New England Patriots, 34-27 in that amazing game last Sunday night. I mean, a game that was very highly anticipated, lived up to the hype and then some. As for the New Orleans Saints, excuse me, they picked up a big win. They also won last week. They won on Thursday Night Football, defeating the Atlanta Falcons 31-21. So a huge win in their own right for the New Orleans Saints. So yeah, of course we all remember the last time these two teams met. I do believe that was in Super Bowl 44. Well, when you think about these two teams, you can't help but think about Super Bowl 44 when the New Orleans Saints won the Super Bowl for the first time in their franchise history. Winning that, everybody remembers that. I mean, what a finish that was, 31-17 in Miami. Yep, here you go. Saints, the New Orleans Saints lead the all-time series 6-5. I stand corrected. Last meeting was in 2011. That was in New Orleans, and the Saints absolutely pounded the Colts to a pulp, 62-7. That was during that hard times year for the Colts. And of course, Super Bowl 44, we can't forget that. Last time they met in Indianapolis was in 2007. That was opening night, week 1, after the Colts won the Super Bowl when they beat the Chicago Bears in Super Bowl 41. Indianapolis winning that one, and they won that one big, 41-10. Last time the Saints won in Indianapolis, you got to go all the way back to 1998. New Orleans winning that one, 19-13 in overtime. That was at the old RCA Dome in Indianapolis. So there's the all-time history there. Another tough one to call here, if I'm being honest. This is definitely a game I'm looking forward to. This is one of my headline games of the week, considering the body of work of these teams. I mean, you got two great quarterbacks, Drew Brees and Andrew Luck. Should be a fantastic game here. And, the running game, both have – you got two great runners with Mark Ingram against Frank Gore. Should be a great matchup there. And throw in very good receiving core. I mean, I know Marcus Colston is battling injuries with New Orleans. But I got to give the edge to Indianapolis. I mean, because you have Andre Johnson, you got T.Y. Hilton, you got Kobe Fleener, you got Dwayne Allen, you got Moncrief. And so I'm going to take a chance, and I'm going to say the Indianapolis Colts are going to come away with this one. I do believe I have the Colts in my Pick'em League, if I'm not mistaken. I just want to be 100% sure on this. I believe I have Indianapolis. Yes, I do. I have the Indianapolis Colts winning this game. And I think it's going to be a little more on the higher scoring side. I say the final here will be 34-30. The Indianapolis Colts defeat the New Orleans Saints in what I think could be a very fun and entertaining shootout of a game in Lucas Oil Stadium, to say the very least. So give me the Colts in this one. So So with that said, I'm going to move on to our next game here on NFL Saturday, this special edition of NFL Saturday. Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. This game will be at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. This game will be on CBS. And calling the game for CBS will be the great Greg Gumbel, along with Trent Green and Stacey Dales. She'll be on the sidelines for this Steelers-Chiefs matchup in Kansas City. And I believe, I don't know if I'm reading this right, I think they have the Kansas City Chiefs as the favorites in this one, 2.5 to 3 point favorites in favor of Kansas City, which I find rather surprising considering Kansas City only has one win to their credit, which was that opening game against Houston, but they've gone downhill ever since. So, so we'll see on that. Series history, I do believe, yes, it favors the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers lead the all-time series 20-9. Including Pittsburgh winning the last three meetings. They met last year in Pittsburgh, and the Steelers won that 20-12. Last time they met in Kansas City was in 2011, and the Steelers won that 13-9. And last time the Chiefs won at home against the Steelers, 2009, that was a 27-24 overtime win in Arrowhead. So there's the numbers there. And for those of you who are wondering, last time Kansas City won in Pittsburgh, you got to go back to 1986. That was a 24-19 Chief win at the old Three Rivers Stadium. But this game's not there. It's in Kansas City. So there you have it there. Big win for the Steelers last week. You know, they pulled up a humongous win, knocking off the Arizona Cardinals. That was a rather interesting game, to say the very least. I mean, honestly, I thought Arizona was going to win that thing going away, considering the injuries Pittsburgh has. You know, with Ben Roethlisberger, you know, he got hurt in that St. Louis game a number of weeks ago, and Michael Vick was, you know, cum sa at times, but he got hurt. He hurt his hamstring, and then Landry Jones comes in, you know, former Oklahoma standout, and he has himself a game. He has himself a big game, and it was enough for the Steelers to beat the Cardinals. So just like in Super Bowl 43. So sorry, Arizona fans, for bringing back a bad memory, but you know that's what happens. This is a tough one to call. I mean, because you know KC, you know they are at home, and you know they've had some tough luck losses. Everybody knows that, including last week's Chiefs losing in Minnesota 16-10, and of course you know Steelers got that big win against Zona at home. So I believe that was a 24-12 final, if I'm not mistaken. I just want to be sure on this. Well, 25-13 rather, 25-13. Steelers have won 2 in a row ever since that tough luck loss to Baltimore. Imagine if they had won that Baltimore game. I mean, that would have been even bigger for them. But you know, they choked away that game. But they had that last second win against San Diego on the Monday night, and then the Arizona win. So definitely a trap game for Pittsburgh, because next week they have that huge divisional showdown with the Cincinnati Bengals, which I'm hoping that Michael Bullock and or Michael Fletcher will be joining me next week to talk about that, because that's going to be a humongous game. I cannot wait for that. But this one could be just as fun and entertaining. I'm assuming I do believe Landry Jones will be starting at quarterback for Pittsburgh. That's probably why they have KC as the favorite, because you know Alex Smith is the more established quarterback, more experienced quarterback, as everybody knows. Thing is, though, Chiefs don't have Jamal Charles. Jamal Charles got hurt; he's done for the year. So Niall Davis will be leading the charge in the running game. And you still have Travis Kelce, who's one of the best young tight ends in the game today, and a solid but unspectacular receiving core. But I have to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers in this one, because I think I can definitely see Landry Jones having another big game. I can definitely see that, and yes, I do have Pittsburgh on my pick'em spread here. So yeah, I'm definitely going with the Pittsburgh Steelers behind Landry Jones. I think Le'Veon Bell's gonna have a big game too. I also can see Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant definitely having big games for Pittsburgh. Maybe a Heath Miller sighting. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this game, 27-24. That's my final score. No question about this. So 27-24, the Pittsburgh Steelers over the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. Should be a fun game. No question about that. All right. Next on the docket, the Houston Texans going up against the Miami Dolphins. This will be on CBS, Sun Life Stadium in Miami. Of course, that's where this game will be going down. And I don't need a dirt sheet to tell me this. I mean, I know for a fact the Miami Dolphins have never defeated the Houston Texans, and I am correct on this. The Houston Texans lead this all-time series 7-0. Last meeting was in 2012. That was in Houston. Texans won that 30-10. Last meeting in Miami was in 2011. Houston, of course, won that 23-13. So, and the Dolphins have never won. So that's it for that. And calling this game for CBS, because this will be a CBS game. Calling the game for CBS will be Spiro Dedes and Solomon Wilcots. They'll be at Sun Life Stadium in Miami. And according to my spread here, the Miami Dolphins are the favorites to win this game. They are 4.5 to 5-point favorites in this game. So, well, of course, everybody knows what's happening in Miami right now, the situation. Joe Philbin was fired. Dan Campbell was brought in as the interim head coach. And well, I think the Dolphins were definitely buying into what he was preaching because, I mean, look what the Dolphins did. I mean, they absolutely put a whooping on the Tennessee Titans at Nissan Field in Tennessee. I mean, 38-10 beatdown of the Titans. And of course, the Houston Texans coming off of a win over the Jacksonville Jaguars a week ago in Jacksonville. That was a 31-20 final, and the Dolphins winning 38-10 against Tennessee. So, I mean, you think of the illustrious history of the Miami Dolphins. I mean, I know a lot of fans are saying they've never beaten the Houston Texans. I mean, I know this is one game in particular that Michael Fletcher wants more than anything because, you know, as a Miami Dolphin fan, he wants to break that Houston Texan jinx. Will they do it here? I say yes. I think this is the time. I think the Miami Dolphins will finally beat the Houston Texans tomorrow. I got to go with the Dolphins in this game. I mean, I think Ryan Tannehill is going to have a big game. I can see him doing that. I can see the running game with Lamar Miller and the receiving core getting going. I can see them having a big game as well. And I can also see the defense. I mean, we saw what the defense did against Tennessee. I mean, they had a humongous game against Tennessee. I mean, they literally manhandled them. And they also knocked out Marcus Mariota. And we'll talk about Marcus Mariota in a little bit for Tennessee. But, man, I mean, the Miami Dolphins a week ago against the Tennessee Titans in that 38-10 beatdown in Tennessee. They forced four Tennessee turnovers. They had six. They sacked Tennessee quarterback. Two different quarterbacks. They sacked Marcus Mariota 5 times, and they also got one more sack on Zach Mettenberger. 6 total sacks for the Dolphin defense. Not to mention forcing 4 Titan turnovers, including 2 interceptions of Marcus Mariota. Tannehill, 2 touchdown passes. He was 22 of 29, 266, 2 TDs, 2 picks, rating of 97.8. Lamar Miller, 113 yards rushing and a touchdown. Jarvis Landry, a rushing touchdown as well. Richard Matthews, 85 yards to lead the receiving corps. It was Deion Sims and Jordan Cameron who had the receiving touchdowns. We'll see about Kenny Stills and Landry and Sims. I think they can all have big games. Kicker was perfect, and Cameron Wake alone had 4 sacks in that win. Olivier Vernon had one other sack, and the other sack was Jordan Kovacs. So Jordan Kovacs and Olivier Vernon, 1 sack apiece, but Cameron Wake was the star with 4 sacks. And Rashad Jones had a 30-yard interception return for a touchdown, and Brent Grimes had the other interception of Marcus Mariota. So just an all-around incredible effort by the Dolphins against Tennessee. And I think I can definitely see them keeping that up against the Houston Texans this week and finally snapping that Texan jinx. So I am going with the Miami Dolphins to finally defeat the Houston Texans for the first time in their franchise history. 24-17. That's going to be my final score. We'll see how Ryan Mallett does. I think Mallett can have a solid game. Maybe I think DeAndre Hopkins will have a big game for Houston, as well as maybe Arian Foster. Maybe we'll have a Foster sighting. I don't know. But at the end, though, I just like the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are finally going to get that Texan jinx off their back. So Miami wins 24-17 in Miami tomorrow. So it should be an interesting game there. All right. Next up here on this special edition of NFL Saturday, to me, from the AFC side, the game of the week right here. The New York Jets going up against the New England Patriots. Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. That's where we're going to be for this one. And calling the game for CBS, I know for a fact it will be Ian Eagle along with Dan Fouts and Evan Washburn. They'll be in Foxborough for this big game tomorrow. I mean, should be an incredible game here. I mean, according to my notes here, the New England Patriots lead the all-time series here with the Jets 56-52 with a tie. That one tie was in 1966. That was in Boston, back when they were the Boston Patriots. 24-24 was that final. Last year, the Patriots won both meetings. They swept the season series a year ago. New England, of course, winning in Foxborough 27-25. I believe that was on a Thursday night. And then New England went into MetLife and beat the Jets there 17-16. Last time the Jets won in Foxborough, you got to go back to, the playoff game, the divisional playoff game they had in January of 2011. That was a 28-21 win by the Jets. Their last regular season win against the Patriots in Foxborough, that was in 2008. Jets won that one 34-31 in overtime. You remember that was the year Tom Brady was hurt, and Matt Castle was the starting quarterback for the Patriots. And, of course, Brett Favre was the starting quarterback for the Jets. And they had that amazing start, and then they self-destructed towards the end of the year and opened the door for Fletcher's Dolphins to steal the division. So, okay, so that's the history there. This is going to be a great game, I think. I mean, because the Jets are 4-1. Patriots are one of, I believe, 5 remaining undefeated teams in the NFL right now. And the Patriots are the favorites. They're pretty sizable favorites. They're 7.5 to 9-point favorites to win against the Jets. And, of course, they're the favorites, and rightly so. I mean, as you know, Tom Brady's playing out of his mind right now. And, Gronk's doing his thing. And, that receiving core, not just with Gronk, but Julian Edelman's been unbelievable. Danny Amendola. They're going to have Brandon LaFell back. Brandon LaFell has just been activated off the PUP list, so we'll see him in action for the first time this year. And of course, the running game, I mean, Dion Lewis, who has just been this breakout star for the Patriots. And, of course, you can't forget about LeGarrette Blount. Blount forced trauma there. And the defense, which has been playing pretty solid as of late as well. And there's a reason why this team is the number 1 team in our power rankings week in and week out, because, not just because of the Super Bowl champs, but also because, they just keep finding ways to win, especially against the Indianapolis Colts in that classic game a week ago in Indianapolis. Best Patriot Colt game we've seen in years, probably since the Manning Manning was there. Jets, on the other hand, they're 4-1. They've won 2 in a row. Of course, they beat the Dolphins in London 27-14, and then, of course, the 34-20 victory over the Washington Redskins a week ago at MetLife Stadium to improve to 4-1. 474 yards of total offense by the Jets, and holding the Redskins to only 225. They forced 2 turnovers. Defense got a sack. The only problem was the Jets did commit 3 turnovers, but it didn't matter. I mean, the Jets still found a way to win. Ryan Fitzpatrick, 253 yards passing, 2 touchdowns in the win against the Redskins. Chris Ivory, 146 yards rushing and a touchdown in the win. And Brandon Marshall, over 100 yards receiving at 111. Eric Decker back in action after missing some action with a knee injury. So I think Marshall and Decker will have big games on the receiving core. I can see Ivory having a big game and Fitzpatrick having a solid game. But let's face it, Fitzpatrick has never fared well against the Patriots. And, of course, I have to go with the New England Patriots to win this game because, common sense. So, of course, I do think it will be a closer game than people think. I do think the Jets will give them some fits, though. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with the New England Patriots to win this game. Should be an exciting game. I will go 31-24. The New England Patriots defeat the New York Jets at Gillette Stadium, keep their perfect season going. And of course, when you think about perfect season, you can't help but think about that awesome team they had in 2007 that, just beat people, just beat people left and right and took names, and everybody knows that. So that's it on that. Patriots win 31-24. Next game on the docket, the Cleveland Browns against the St. Louis Rams, Edward Jones Dome in St. Louis. That's where we're going to be on this for this one. Another CBS game, and calling this game for CBS will be Brian Anderson, along with former St. Louis Ram Adam Archuleta. So it'll be a little bit of a homecoming for Adam Archuleta. So he'll be returning to St. Louis, where he was a former player, and he was on those great Ram teams, those Greatest Show on Turf teams, with Warner and Falk and Holt and all them, and Bruce, and man, those teams were fun to watch. I'll be honest with you. I do believe the Rams are the favorites in this one. They are 6.5 to 7 point favorites to defeat the Cleveland Browns, and I just want to check the series history on this. Check my notes here, my PDF here. Okay, the Rams, the St. Louis Rams, they lead the all-time series 10-9. Last meeting was in 2011. That was in Cleveland. The Rams won that one 13-12. Very sloppy game. I remember that well. Last meeting in St. Louis was all the way back in 2007. The Browns won that one 27-20. And the last time the Rams won at home against the Browns was in St. Louis. That was in 1999. That was the Super Bowl team. Rams pounded the Browns that day 34-3. I mean, you remember that Brown team was just absolutely horrific. Everybody remembers that. So there's the series history there. So I'll tell you what, the Cleveland Browns, they've impressed me. I mean, they've been playing some good ball as of late, even though they haven't had the wins to show for it, or the record to show for it, rather. I mean, I've been very impressed nonetheless. I mean, they've been playing all these close games. I mean, the San Diego game, everybody remembers that. Of course, they had that huge win in Baltimore some time ago, and then of course the game last week against the Denver Broncos, a very exciting game, a game that was more exciting than we all thought. I mean, I believe that was an overtime game, and they lost that one 26-23 to Denver. But I tell you what, I mean, McCown there, I believe it's Josh McCown, who's the quarterback right now. He's been playing some very good ball as of late. I mean, I've been very impressed with his body of work, and another young player I've been impressed with has been their tight end, Gary Barnidge, who has, I think, been, he's been putting up some good numbers as of late. I've loved his body of work. Last time we saw the Rams was 2 weeks ago. They were defeated by the Green Bay Packers 24-10 at Lambeau Field. So yeah, this is a bit of a tough one to call because Cleveland's, like I said, Cleveland's been playing some good ball as of late, even though the record's not there. They've been playing all these close games as of late. They've been playing some solid ball. But the Rams, I mean, that dome is very tough to win. And of course, I think the Rams will win this one. I got to go with St. Louis here. I believe I have St. Louis. I think I picked St. Louis to win in my Pick'em league, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check that. Yeah. I've got the Rams. Yep. I got the St. Louis Rams winning this game. I think Nick Foles is going to have a big game. I think Todd Gurley's going to have a big game. Tavon Austin and to lead the receiving core. Although I do expect Josh McCown to have another big game, as will Gary Barnidge and the running game, Travis Benjamin and whatnot. So I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to go with the St. Louis Rams to win this game. I'm going to go 27-20. I think that's going to be the final score, 27-20. The St. Louis Rams defeat the Cleveland Browns at the Edward Jones Dome in St. Louis. So should be an interesting game there. All right, next up, we have the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Tennessee Titans. This game will be at the newly named Nissan Field in Nashville. formerly LP Field. Calling this game for Fox, because this will be a Fox game. It will be Tom Brenneman along with Charles Davis and Tony Siragusa. They will be in Nashville for this one. And the Falcons are the favorites here. Can't say I'm surprised. 5.5 to 7-point favorites to defeat the Tennessee Titans. And I do believe, as I look for the series history with these two, just bear with me for a moment. Tennessee leads the all-time series 7-6. Last meeting was in 2011. That game was in Atlanta. Falcons won that one 23-17. Last time they met in Tennessee was in 2007. The Titans won that one 20-13. The last time the Falcons won at the Oilers, at this franchise, you got to go all the way back to 1981. The Falcons winning at the old Astrodome in Houston, 31-27. Of course, that was back when they were the Houston Oilers, the Tennessee Titans were. 31-27, the Falcons won that. That was back in 1981. So 7-6, Tennessee leads the all-time series against Atlanta. So, yeah, this is I have no doubts about this one. I mean, the Falcons coming off that tough loss to the Saints, losing that one 31-21 at the Superdome in New Orleans. And, of course, Tennessee got their brains beat out by the Miami Dolphins at home a week ago. I think it's going to be a carbon copy here. The Falcons are going to be angry. They're going to be PO'd, especially after that bad loss against the New Orleans. So, I mean, that's all there is to say on that. So, I have no doubts about this one. I mean, and here's the thing. Marcus Mariota will not be playing for Tennessee. He hurt his knee in that loss to the Dolphins a week ago. Zach Mettenberger is going to be the starter for the Titans, and I think it's going to be a long day for him and Bishop Sankey and company. Atlanta, this is my lock of the week right here, if I'm being quite honest with you. Matt Ryan's going to go off. Devontae Freeman's going to go off. Julio Jones is going to go off. Roddy White's going to go off. Leonard Hankerson's going to go off. And of course, that defense is going to feast on Mettenberger. So, lock of the week, the Atlanta Falcons will be all over the Tennessee Titans like melting butter. So, Falcons roll, and they are going to roll big. How big? 41-10. That's my final score. 41-10. The Atlanta Falcons, my lock of the week against the Tennessee Titans. This is an absolute no doubter whatsoever. So, Falcons win and win big. It's as simple as that. So, moving on to our next game here on the special edition of NFL Saturday, our final early game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be going up against the Washington Redskins. This game will be at FedEx Field in Washington, or Landover, Maryland, for those of you scoring at home. And the series history, I do believe, favors the Redskins. I want to say it favors the Redskins. Well, actually, no, it favors Tampa Bay. Series history favors Tampa Bay 10-9. Last meeting was a year ago. That was in Washington, and the Buccaneers won that one 27-7. Last time the Redskins beat the Buccaneers at home was back in 2009. The Redskins won 16-13. So the Buccaneers have won the last two meetings in Washington. Last year and the prior meeting, 2010. So 10-9, the series history in favor of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Washington Redskins. Fox game. This game will be on your local Fox affiliate. And calling the game for Fox will be none other than Kenny Albert, Daryl Moose Johnston, and Laura Oakman. They will be in Washington for this game, calling the game for Fox. And the spread favors, I believe, the Washington Redskins in this one. 3 to 3.5 point spread for the Redskins. So last time we saw both of these teams, the Washington Redskins, of course, losing at the New York Jets at MetLife Stadium a week ago, 34-20. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I believe, were off. I believe they were on bye last week. I don't believe they played last week. No, they did not. I don't see Tampa Bay in my list of last week's games. Last time we saw the Bucks was 2 weeks ago. They were victorious over the Jacksonville Jaguars in a game that I cannot believe I'm saying was actually a very exciting game, a very exciting and entertaining game, not to mention a fun game. I mean, 38-31, Tampa Bay defeated Jacksonville. So that was that. So back to the now. Tough one to call, if I'm being honest with you, because Tampa Bay's been, Tampa had that big win against Jacksonville. I mean, they played very well. I can see Jameis Winston having a solid game here. Doug Martin, the running back, I think he'll have a solid game, and maybe we'll see Vincent Jackson have a big game for Tampa Bay. I'm certainly hoping that because he's on my fantasy team. As for the Redskins, Kirk Cousins, I can see Cousins having a big game here. The running game with Alfred Morris, I think Alfred Morris is going to have a solid game. Matt Jones, they have a two-headed monster at running back, Alfred Morris and Matt Jones. I think both of them are going to have big games. I can see that. And the receiving core, Jordan Reed, leading the way for that. So tough one to call here, but I'm going to go with the Washington Redskins. I like the Washington Redskins in this game. I say the final score, Washington will win this one. I will say final will be, I will go, let's go, I'm gonna go 30-20. That's gonna be my final score. 30-20. The Washington Redskins defeat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at FedEx Field in what should be a rather interesting game, to say the very least. So that could be an interesting one. You never know. So give me Washington in that one. 30-20. Okay, now we're going to move on to the late action. Now, the late afternoon games. There's only two of them, believe it or not. One on each affiliate. And we're going to start off with the CBS game. It'll be the Oakland Raiders going up against the San Diego Chargers. Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego, the location. And this will be on CBS. And before I get you that information, the series history, and there's a lot of history between these two teams. No doubt about that. The series history favors the Oakland Raiders in this one, 58-50, two ties. The first tie was in 1970, 27-all in San Diego, and the other tie was in 1972. That was in Oakland. That was a 17-all tie. Last year, the San Diego Chargers swept the Raiders, San Diego winning in both Oakland and San Diego. Chargers won 31-28 in Oakland, and they won 13-6 in San Diego. As a matter of fact, San Diego's won the last three meetings in this series, including 2013 in San Diego. Last time the Raiders won in San Diego, 2011, the Raiders won that 24-17, and that's that. So let's see. Calling the game for CBS will be none other than Andrew Catalan, along with Steve Berline and Steve Tasker. They'll be at Qualcomm Stadium on the call for that game on CBS. And the spread favors the San Diego Chargers. 3.5 to 4 points is the spread. And last time we saw these two teams, I do believe they both played last week. San Diego Chargers coming off of a very tough loss against the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field, 27-20. That was a five-star classic. Definitely some Shakespearean drama in that one. Actually, the Raiders were on bye last week, but the week before, in Week 5, they had a tough luck loss of their own against the Denver Broncos. They lost that one 16-10, and that was a game that I told you all was going to be an exciting game. Nobody wanted to hear me on that. They all thought, it's going to be a blowout. No, Raiders played Denver tough, but it was just a little bit short. So that's that. Chargers, like I said, Phillip Rivers had himself the game of his life against the Green Bay Packers a week ago. He threw for over 500 yards in that game, 503 to be exact. But then he came up just short as they were driving for a tying touchdown. He went for a pass, so it was incomplete, and that was it. So I can definitely see Phillip Rivers having another big game. I also see not sure about the running game. We'll see how that goes. But I can definitely see Rivers having a big game. The receiving core, I can definitely see them having a big game as well. I mean, loaded receiving core. Keenan Allen, even though he was injured in that game against the Packers, I'm sure he'll be ready to go. I haven't heard anything, bad about that, so I'm sure he'll be ready to go. Antonio Gates, of course, back from his suspension, for the last couple of weeks. I can definitely see him having another big game. He usually does. I mean, that Rivers-Gates connection is lethal. And Malcolm Floyd, I can see him having a solid game as well. So, and the Raiders, Derek Carr, he's had some solid games, and Amari Cooper, who was a stud at Alabama. I think he's going to have a solid game at best, and we'll see about the running game. We'll see about the Raiders' running game as well. But at the end, though, I like the Chargers in this one. I say San Diego gets the win back here. 28-21. That's going to be my final score. 28-21. The San Diego Chargers defeat the Oakland Raiders at Qualcomm Stadium. Should be an interesting game to say the very least. So give me the Raiders, or I should say, give me the Chargers rather. 28-21. That's going to be the final score in that one. All right, the other late game, America's Game of the Week on Fox. The Dallas Cowboys going up against the New York Giants at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. This is going to be on Fox. Let's give me I'll get that information in just a moment as I pull up the series history. They met earlier this year. That I do know. They met on opening night, and I do believe the Cowboys won that game. Very exciting game there. Dallas leads the all-time series at 61-42 with two ties going into the season. The two ties were in 1960 in New York and 1964 in Dallas. And it's actually 62-42 with two ties in favor of Dallas. Because remember, Dallas won earlier this year. That was, of course, at Jerry World. As a matter of fact, the Dallas Cowboys have actually been on a hot streak in this series. I believe they've actually won the last 5 meetings now, including the game from this year, because they swept in 2014, they swept in 2013. So this game is in New York, and the last time the Giants beat the Cowboys at home was back in 2011. That was a 31-14 win. That was the final week of the season. They were playing for the NFC Eastern Division Championship in that game. Giants won that 31-14. And then, of course, you all know the Giants went on to win the Super Bowl, winning Super Bowl 46 against the New England Patriots at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Another instant classic with those two. But in all honesty, 42 was just a smidge better, if I'm being honest. So there you have it. The game of the week right here. This is going to be on Fox. And according to my notes here, Joe Buck's actually going to be working this game. Joe Buck's going to be working this game with Troy Aikman and Peter Schrager. Peter Schrager is going to be filling in for Aaron Andrews, apparently. So Peter Schrager will be joining Joe Buck and Troy Aikman for this game at MetLife Stadium. And the Giants are the favorites, 3 to 3.5 point favorites. So, yeah, a lot of history here, I know. They met in week 1. They met on opening night. That was at Cowboys Stadium in Arlington, and the Cowboys won that game 27-26. That was the final in that one. Dallas put up 436 yards of offense. The Giants only 289. The Giants did not commit any turnovers. The Cowboys, however, did commit 3 turnovers. Tony Romo was not sacked in that game, but the defense did get 1 sack of Eli Manning. So that wasn't much defense in that one. Eli Manning, 20 of 36, 193, no TDs, no picks, a rating of 70.7. Tony Romo, though, had a big game that night, 36 of 45, 356, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a rating of 103.3. Rashad Jennings led the Giants' rushing attack with 52 yards, and Joseph Randle led the Cowboys' rushing attack with 65 yards. The receiving core, Shane Vereen led the Giants with 46 yards, and Lance Dunbar led the Cowboys with 70. Jason Witten had 2 receiving touchdowns to go with 60 yards. Dez Bryant had 5 catches for 48 yards. Cole Beasley also had a receiving touchdown in that game, 49 yards. And the 1 sack was Tyrone Crawford had the lone sack of Eli Manning in that week 1 Sunday night game. A lot has changed, though. In that game, Dez Bryant injured his foot. He's been out since, and they teased the possibility that Bryant would be back. But the thing is, he will not be back, as he is he was officially ruled out. I saw that on an NFL alert this afternoon while I was watching the college football action. Of course, Tony Romo still not back yet. He'll be back about a month from now. He should be able to come back in Week 11 against the Miami Dolphins at Sun Life Stadium. So I do believe Matt Castle will be starting for the Dallas Cowboys, and so Castle along with Randall and Witten and Williams. I think Castle should have a solid game, though. I can see Castle having a solid game. I think he'll do well. The running back by committee with Joseph Randall and Darren McFadden. We'll see how they do. I think they can have solid games. And Witten and Williams, along with Cole Beasley and Lance Dunbar, I think they'll have solid games as well. For the Giants, of course, Eli Manning. I think he'll have a much better game than he did in Week 1. I can definitely see Rashad Jennings, maybe some Shane Vereen, Andre Williams on the running game. We'll see how that goes. Odell Beckham Jr. I can definitely see him having a much better game. I don't think he's gonna have 5 for 44 in this one. I think he'll have a big game. We'll see about Ruben Randall. I don't believe Victor Cruz is ready to come back yet. So yeah. So all I know is should be an interesting game to say the very least. Of course, last time we saw these teams, the Giants were beaten down by the Philadelphia Eagles 27-7 on Monday Night Football. Cowboys were off last week; they had a bye. Last time we saw them before that was in Week 5. Of course, they got their brains beat out by the New England Patriots, 30-6. Not a pretty game to say the very least. So yeah, should be an interesting game this time around, especially in New York, and especially with those Cowboy injuries. Of course, Romo and Bryant still out, and I do believe, according to my pick'em spread, I do believe I have the Giants winning this game. Yes, I do. I'm going with the New York Giants to win this game. Because I like Eli Manning a lot more than Matt Castle. I think he's going to have a better game. And, of course, the Romo and Bryant injuries, I'm still not sold on those. So I'm going with the Giants to win this game. I think it can still be an exciting game, though. I'm going to say the final here. I'm going to go 31-28. The New York Giants over the Dallas Cowboys at MetLife Stadium. Could be one of the better games of the week, if I'm being honest. So I'm going with the Cowboys. I should say I'm going with the Giants, rather, in that one. So next up, we have 2 more games left on our docket here. Sunday Night Football. The Philadelphia Eagles will be going up against the Carolina Panthers. This game will be at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. And, of course, you already know who's calling this game. Sunday Night Football. That of course will be the legendary Al Michaels, along with Chris Collinsworth and Michelle Tafoya. They will be in Charlotte for this one. And series history favors the Philadelphia Eagles 6-2. Last meeting was a year ago. That was in Philadelphia. The Eagles won that one going away 45-21. Last time they met in Carolina was in 2009. Philadelphia won that game 38-10. I believe that was on opening day in 2009. There's only one time that the Panthers beat the Eagles at home. The only time they did that was back in 1999. Carolina won that one going away 33-7. So that's the history there. Of course, they met in the NFC Championship game in January of 2004. Carolina won that one 14-3 to advance to the Super Bowl 38, that unforgettable 5-star classic, Shakespearean drama all around against the Patriots in Houston. What a game that was, a game I hold near and dear to my heart. So for a lot of reasons. And the spread favors the Carolina Panthers. Can't say I'm surprised with that. 3-point spread for the Carolina Panthers across the board. And there you have it. Last time we saw these teams, I believe they both played last week, if I'm not mistaken. I know the Eagles played. and they had that big win. They had that easy win against the New York Giants, 27-7 on Monday Night Football. I stand corrected. Carolina did not play last week. Carolina played in Week 5, and I know they won. They defeated the. You see who they beat. They beat the. Actually, I think Week 5 was their bye week. Actually, I think they played last week, and I missed it. They played last week. That's correct. They played last week, and they pulled out one of their biggest wins in recent memory, a 27-23 win over the Seattle Seahawks at CenturyLink Field in Seattle. Humongous win for the Carolina Panthers. So, bit of a tough one to call here, if I'm being quite honest. I mean, this game can go either way. But if I'm going to be quite honest with you, I like the Carolina Panthers in this one. I think Cam Newton's going to have a big game. Jonathan Stewart, biggest game he's had in a long time. I mean, especially against that defense, I'm very surprised about that. But nonetheless, Stewart had himself a solid game. Ted Ginn Jr., I think he's going to have a big game, no question. And he's been their best receiver along with Greg Olsen. I think they're both going to have big games, as well as Newton and Stewart. So, and then of course on the Philadelphia side, Sam Bradford. I think he'll have a solid game. DeMarco Murray. I really don't see him having a big game against that Panther defense. That Panther defense has been pretty good has been very good this year, especially Josh Norman, who's been I think their best player, even though their best player really is Luke Kuechly. But Kuechly has been battling a concussion all season long. Hopefully he'll be ready to go for Carolina, the heart and soul of that defense. And then the receiving core, Jordan Matthews, Zach Ertz, Nelson Aguilar. I don't know if they can match wits with that Carolina defense. So should be an exciting game. I think Philly will give them fits, but at the end, though, I just think Carolina's too good right now. So I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers to win this game. I say the final here will be, I'm going to go 20. I think this will be another 27-24. I say 27-24. The Carolina Panthers defeat the Philadelphia Eagles at Bank of America Stadium as part of Sunday Night Football. One game left on the docket this week, Monday Night Football. The Baltimore Ravens going up against the Arizona Cardinals, University of Phoenix Stadium, Glendale, Arizona. You know that location, of course. It's hosted Super Bowls. Of course, it also hosted WrestleMania 26 for all you professional wrestling enthusiasts out there. And a fantastic WrestleMania it was, one of the greatest of all time. Ask Michael Fletcher and myself, we can tell you stories about that. Series history favors the Baltimore Ravens 4-1. Last meeting was in 2011. Baltimore won that one 30-27 at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. Last time they met in Arizona was in 2003. The Ravens winning that one 26-18. That was at the old Sun Devil Stadium in Tempe, where the Cardinals used to play before they got to University of Phoenix Stadium. The only time the Arizona Cardinals beat the Baltimore Ravens was their very first meeting back in 1997. Arizona winning in Baltimore 16-13. That was back when they were the Phoenix. I think they were still the Phoenix Cardinals at that point. So 4-1 Baltimore. Baltimore's won the last four meetings. So, and of course Monday Night Football. You know who's calling that one? Mike Tirico, John Gruden, Lisa Salters. They'll be in Arizona for that one. There's no question about it here. I definitely had the Arizona Cardinals winning this game. Okay, just wanted to check something there. Okay. Let me see. Yes. I wanted to check their last games. Arizona, of course, losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh 25-13. And the Ravens, with another tough luck loss of their own, losing in San Francisco against the 49ers 25-20, allowing the 49ers to get their payback from Super Bowl 47 in New Orleans a few years back. So that's the story there. I got to go with the Arizona Cardinals here. I mean, they're back home. They got off to such a hot start, and unfortunately, they have not been playing good ball as of late. But I think at home against a Raven team that's been one of the most disappointing teams, if not the most disappointing team in the NFL this year. I expect Carson Palmer to have a big game. I think Chris Johnson will have a big game as well. Andre Ellington as well on the running game. Larry Fitzgerald and John Brown on the receiving core. Defense will probably fluster Flacco and frustrate Joe Flacco, even though I do think Flacco will have a decent game, but I don't think he's going to have a big game against that Cardinal defense. I don't think so. Solid game at best. And that's pretty much it for that. So I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals to win this game. I say Zona wins this one, although I did forget to mention the spread. Arizona is an 8 to 10 point favorite here. So yeah, there's no question about this. Arizona will win this game. It's another one of my locks of the week. It's not the lock of the week, but it's one of my locks of the week. I like Arizona in this one, and I say Zona will win this one. I say the final here will be 35. I'm going to go 35-24. The Arizona Cardinals defeat the Baltimore Ravens at University of Phoenix Stadium as part of Monday Night Football. So that's the docket for this week. Of course, when it comes to next week's action, which hopefully I'll have either Michael Bullock or Michael Fletcher with me next week. I mean, we got a few big time games next week. Of course, Thursday Night Football, the Miami Dolphins against the New England Patriots at Gillette Stadium. That's a big game right there. Of course, another big game, the Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That should be a very good game. The Seattle Seahawks against the Dallas Cowboys should be an interesting game there. Of course, the game of the week next week, which I'm really looking forward to as part of Sunday Night Football. Cannot wait to talk about this one, hopefully. The Green Bay Packers against the Denver Broncos at Sports Authority Field at Mile High. And then we got ourselves an interesting Monday night game as well with the Indianapolis Colts going up against the Carolina Panthers. So really interesting action, to say the very least, next week. So that's that as far as the docket is concerned. Now, power rankings, as far as that's concerned, as far as I know, when it comes to the power rankings, I mean, there's absolutely no question about it who the number one team is. I mean, it is indeed still the New England Patriots. I definitely have them as my number one team, no question about that. I mean, because they just keep finding ways to win, man. That's all there is to say on that. And of course, no power rankings last week because we didn't have a show. And but I kind of feel like I owe you folks some. I owe you all a power rankings as well. As I take a look at my notes here, my top five are no brainers, no question about it. As far as who I have, heck, I could even say my top six is top six, 1 through 6, absolute no-brainers as far as I'm concerned. 7 through 10, though, if I'm being quite honest, I mean that's a different story in itself. Really don't know how to go as far as spots 7 through 10 are concerned. As I look at my notes, I do have a couple of honorable mentions. One honorable mention. Well, actually, no, I don't think I have really any honorable mentions. If I'm really being honest, as I look at my notes here, So yeah, actually, I'll tell you what. My top. Let's make that my tops. My 1 through 8. 1 through 8 really is really the way to go as far as I'm concerned. Bear with me for a moment. You know what? I think I have my power rankings all set to go. So I'll tell you right now, there's going to be no ties in these power rankings as of right now. So so with that said, I'm going to start it off with my number 10 team, and my number 10 for this week is going to be the Minnesota Vikings. That's who I have as my number 10 this week. 3-2, their record, defeating the Kansas City Chiefs 16-10. I mean, they had that tough loss at Denver a few weeks ago. This past week, they forced one Kansas City turnover. Defense recorded 2 sacks of Alex Smith. Bridgewater, 249 yards passing, a TD and 2 picks. Adrian Peterson, 60 yards. And but it was Stephon Diggs who led the receiving attack with 129 yards receiving. And it was pretty much a defensive-oriented win for the Minnesota Vikings. Eric Kendricks had a sack. Danielle Hunter and Sharif Floyd each had a half a sack apiece in the win against Kansas City. So yeah, they also had 321 yards of offense. They were outgained 328-321. They committed a couple of turnovers, but I felt based on the record they should be in the power rankings, and they're in there for now. So my number 10 is the Minnesota Vikings. My number 9, I got to punish this team. They were in my top 5 in the last rankings a couple weeks ago. This time around, I got to knock them out. Knock them down to number 9. I got to go with the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are my number 9 in the power rankings this week. Losing to the New Orleans Saints 31-21 in New Orleans. They were just sloppy in that game. The first 3 quarters, they were just absolutely horrendous. I mean, they made a game of it late, but they just dug themselves too big a hole. I mean, even though they outgained New Orleans 413-385, they committed 3 turnovers. Matt Ryan was sacked 5 times in the loss. That's another reason why I knocked him down to number 9. Even though Ryan had a very good game, I mean, 30 of 44, 295, 2 touchdown passes, a rating of 102. It was just Drew Brees just outplayed him. Devontae Freeman, 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. He had 156 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. Julio Jones, 93 yards. Roddy White, only 23 yards. Leonard Hankerson, 37 yards. And Freeman had 56 yards. And Ryan was sacked, like I said, 5 times by that Saint defense. Cameron Jordan had sacked him 3 times. And Hawley Kakaha with 1 sack, and Kasim Edebali had the other sack. So Matty Ice was sacked 5 times, and he was definitely ice cold last week. So we'll see if they can get back on track against Tennessee. I think they can, no doubt about it. So my number 9 is the Atlanta Falcons. My number 8 in the power rankings, I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. I like the Philadelphia Eagles as my number 8. They've won 2 games in a row. They're 3-3 on the season. And their last 2 wins have been very impressive. I mean, they've outscored the New Orleans Saints and the New York Giants by a combined score of 66-24, 27-7 against the Giants last Monday night. I mean, they were just spot on. I mean, 420. They outgained the Giants 428-247. The only concern is they did commit 4 turnovers, but they still found a way to get it done. They forced 3 Giant turnovers and also sacked Eli Manning 3 times. Sam Bradford, 280 yards passing, had a touchdown, but he did throw 3 interceptions for a rating of 61.3. DeMarco Murray, far and away his best game as an Eagle, 112 yards rushing and a touchdown in the win. The receiving corps was led by Riley Cooper, 76 yards and a touchdown against the Giants. And Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, and Vinny Curry had the sacks of Eli Manning. Nolan Carroll also had an interception return for a touchdown. D'Amico Ryans had the other interception of Eli Manning. So an all-around impressive performance by the Philadelphia Eagles, rather, a week ago against the Giants on Monday Night Football. So they've won 2 in a row. They're playing some good ball. So that said, the Philadelphia Eagles are number 8 in my power rankings this week. My number 7 I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers are my number 7. They've won 2 in a row. They're currently 4-2, and second in the AFC North, of course, behind the Cincinnati Bengals. I'll tell you right now, they're in my top 3. Even though the Steelers were outgained 469-310 by Arizona, their defense forced 3 Arizona turnovers, also recorded 1 sack of Carson Palmer. Landry Jones, 8 out of 12, 168 yards, 2 touchdown passes, no picks, rating of 149.3, replacing the injured Michael Vick. Le'Veon Bell, 88 yards rushing. But it was Martavis Bryant, 137 yards and 2 touchdowns in the win. Antonio Brown, a subpar performance, only 3 catches for 24 yards. I don't see him having that bad of a game against Kansas City tomorrow. Certainly not. The defense played out of their mind. James Harrison had the lone sack of Carson Palmer. Lawrence Timmons and Mike Mitchell had the interceptions of Palmer as well. So all-around team effort by the Steelers, especially Landry Jones coming off the bench, had a fantastic game in place of the injured Michael Vick. The third-string guy gets it done. So a very impressive win for the Pittsburgh Steelers, 25-13 over Arizona. There is no doubt about this. As far as that's concerned, actually, I stand corrected. I have a tie at number 7, and ironically, it's these 2 teams. The Pittsburgh Steelers were the first, and my other number 7, it was the Arizona Cardinals. Because the week before this game, they had that big win against the Detroit Lions, 42-17. But like I said, they committed 3 turnovers. Carson Palmer still had a solid. Carson Palmer had a very good game. He was 29-45, 421 yards, threw a touchdown pass, but he did throw 2 interceptions for a rating of 83.7. Chris Johnson only 40 yards rushing. John Brown had himself a career game, 10 catches for 196 yards, and Larry Fitzgerald had 93 yards receiving. Michael Floyd had a receiving touchdown in the game. So yeah. But I based it on the previous body of work. So with that said, co-number 7's the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Arizona Cardinals. That's the only tie I have in these power rankings this week, if I'm being quite honest. My number 6, moving on to number 6, this is where I have the New York Jets. The New York Jets are my number 6 in the rankings this week. A 4-1 record. They've won 2 games in a row. Of course, they're getting ready for that huge divisional showdown with the New England Patriots at Gillette Stadium tomorrow. They've outscored the Dolphins and the Redskins in their last 2 games by a combined score of 61-34. 34-20 winners over the Washington Redskins. Last week, they put up 474 yards of offense. They held the Redskins to 225 total yards. They forced 2 turnovers, got 1 sack of Kirk Cousins. The only concern is the Jets did commit 3 turnovers, but that's okay. Fitzpatrick, 253 yards passing, 2 touchdowns and an interception, rating of 113.1. Chris Ivory had 146 yards of rushing and a touchdown. Fitzpatrick also had a rushing touchdown of his own, 31 yards. And then Brandon Marshall, 111 yards and a touchdown. Eric Decker, a receiving touchdown, 59 yards. The 1 sack was by, it was a half a sack apiece from Muhammad Wilkerson and Sheldon Richardson. A couple of interceptions, one by Darrelle Revis and the other by Marcus Gilchrist. So those were the interceptions for the Jets. So an all-around impressive effort. They're 4-1, really loving their body of work right now. So they are number 6 in my power rankings this week, the New York Jets. Number 5, I got the Carolina Panthers at number 5. Just want to check on them real quick. Carolina, like I said, Carolina was my number 5. Actually, they had their bye week last week, and I had them as my. Now, if we had done a show last week, I don't know if I would have had them still at number 6, but But I put them in. I put them in at right around the 5 spot. I just want to be 100% sure on this. I just want to check something really quick. Just bear with me for a moment while I check my notes. Yeah. Because, we have our bye week rule. I'm sure you all know that by heart. I think I might have to make a change here. Because, I had Carolina at number 6. We had our show on October 10th. And I believe they had their bye week a week ago. So, which would be retroactive to the week before. And, yeah, they had their bye week. No, I'm correct on this. They would have had to stay at number 6 last week. We didn't have a show, so no, I am correct on this. Carolina Panthers are my number 5 in the power rankings this week. They're in the top 5 because of the fact that they went into Seattle and beat the Seahawks 27-23, despite the fact that they committed 2 turnovers. They outgained Seattle 383-334. The defense recorded 4 sacks of Russell Wilson. I mean, just impressive. Newton, 269 yards passing, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions for a rating of 65.6. Jonathan Stewart, best game he's had in a long time, 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. Far and away the best game he's had in a long time for Carolina. Greg Olsen, 131 yards and a touchdown in that win. Far and away the best receiver for Carolina a week ago. Oh, Luke Kuechly is back in the action. Okay, well, I wasn't sure. Kawan Short had 2 sacks. Thomas Davis, 1 sack, and Wes Horton. They had the sacks of Russell Wilson. I mean, just an all-around impressive effort by the Panthers. Cam Newton with a 26-yard bomb to Greg Olsen to win it with about 36 seconds to go in the game. So the Carolina Panthers remain undefeated. They're 5-0. They're still getting it done. So Carolina Panthers, number 5 rather, in this installment of the power rankings for this week. Number 4, I have the Denver Broncos at number 4, defeating the Cleveland Browns a week ago in Cleveland. I mean, a game that ended up being more exciting than we all thought. I mean, nobody expected this game to be anything good, but they got it done. Denver found a way to do it. They outgained Cleveland 442-298. They committed 3 turnovers, but they also forced 3 Brown turnovers of their own. The defense recorded 4 sacks of Browns quarterback Josh McCown. Peyton Manning, 26 of 48, 290 yards, 1 touchdown, but he threw 3 interceptions for a rating of 53.3. That's not good. Running game, Ronnie Hillman, 111 yards to lead the way. Demaryius Thomas, 111 yards receiving on 10 catches. Emmanuel Sanders, 109 yards right behind him, 4 catches. One of those was a touchdown in the win. McManus was the hero in overtime. And then, of course, the defense, like I said, 1.5 sacks for Shaquille Barrett, 1 sack for Malik Jackson, 0.5 sack for Brandon Marshall and Laurenti McCray in the victory over the Browns. And Aqib Talib had an interception return for a touchdown in the win. So it's all about the defense, man. I mean, Peyton Manning's still struggling, but he's going to need to be hopefully he'll be ready to go. Hopefully we can have him back to his old self for that huge showdown with the Green Bay Packers, which has the feel of a game of the century type game next week. So, but it's not a true game of the century because they're not 1 and 2 in the power rankings. But the Denver Broncos are number 4 in this installment of the power rankings. Number 3, this is where I have the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals are my number 3 in the power rankings this week. Because of mainly what they did against my Buffalo Bills in Buffalo a week ago, pounding the Bills, a final of 34-21, keep their winning ways going. They're on bye this week. Of course, they have that huge showdown with the Pittsburgh Steelers at Heinz Field next week. Even though Buffalo outgained them 368-355, the defense forced the turnover. They also recorded 2 sacks of E.J. Manuel in the win. Andy Dalton, 22 of 33, 243 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, quarterback rating of 118.6. Jeremy Hill, 56 yards rushing. Giovanni Bernard, 50 yards rushing and a touchdown in the win. Marvin Jones, 95 yards to lead the receiving corps with a touchdown. Tyler Eifert also had a receiving touchdown, as did Jeremy Hill. A.J. Green, a subpar performance, only 4 catches for 36 yards. He'll need to be ready to go for that Pittsburgh game next week. The defense, with a couple of sacks. Carlos Dunlap, 1.5 sacks, and Brandon Thompson had a 0.5 sack of his own. So really loving their body of work right now. Best start for this team since that Super Bowl team in 1988 that went to the Super Bowl when they defeated the when they were defeated by the San Francisco 49ers in Super Bowl 23 in Miami, January of '89. I mean, what a fantastic game that was. Definitely one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time. Definitely a 5-star classic, chock full of Shakespearean drama back then. So number 3 in the power rankings, it is the Cincinnati Bengals. Number 2, this is where I have the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers are number 2 in the power rankings this week, and rightfully so. Hard-fought victory against the San Diego Chargers. I mean, a fantastic game to say the very least. I mean, speaking of 5-star classics, chock full of Shakespearean drama, that game was definitely just that. I mean, Shakespearean drama at Lambeau a week ago. I mean, a very fun and exciting game. Despite the fact that Green Bay was outgained 548 to 370 by the Chargers, the Packers defense forced the turnover. It also recorded 3 sacks of Phillip Rivers, even though Phillip Rivers had the game of his life, 43 of 65, 503, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and a rating of 99.7. Aaron Rodgers, 16 of 29, 255, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 107.7 rating. James Starks, 112 yards and a touchdown. A horrific performance by Eddie Lacy, only 4 carries for 3 yards. That'll definitely change next time when they go up and then they have that game of the century type game against the Denver Broncos. That's going to be speaking of 5 stars with Shakespearean drama, that's definitely going to have it. Believe it or not, Jeff Janis was the leading receiver, 79 yards for the Packers. Randall Cobb only 38 yards to lead that, but it was James Jones who had the receiving touchdown, 30 yards, and James Starks 5 yards and the receiving touchdown there. Crosby had a great day kicking the ball, and the defense. We had Dayton Jones and Julius Peppers with 1 sack, and Mike Daniels and Mike Neal with a 0.5 sack apiece. So to me, I mean, I'm very impressed with this team's body of work. I mean, everybody thought the sky was falling once Jordy Nelson had that season-ending injury in the preseason game against Pittsburgh, but they just keep finding ways to win, man. I mean, James Jones, I know Aaron Rodgers, for one, is so happy to have him back. Gives him that number 2 target along with Randall Cobb. And they just keep finding ways to win. So with that said, number 2 is the Green Bay Packers. Number 1, well, you already know who number 1 is. Of course, it is your reigning and defending Super Bowl champions, the New England Patriots. 34-27 winners against the Indianapolis Colts. The game of the week a week ago, it definitely lived up to the hype. New England outgained Indianapolis 417 to 409 despite committing a turnover. The defense did not force any Colt turnovers, but the defense, however, did record 3 sacks of Andrew Luck. Tom Brady, 23 of 37, 312 yards, 3 touchdowns, threw a pick, rating of 104.8. LeGarrette Blount, 93 yards rushing and a touchdown, continuing his dominance of the Colts. Danny Amendola, 7 catches for 105 yards. Julian Edelman, 50 yards and a touchdown. Same for Rob Gronkowski. He also had 50 yards and a touchdown. And LeGarrette Blount also had a receiving touchdown as well. Gostkowski was perfect kicking the ball. 3 sacks for the defense, 2.5 of them by Chandler Jones. And the other 0.5 sack was Dominique Easley. They had the 3 sacks of Andrew Luck. Whether you like this team or not, they just keep finding ways to win. So we'll see if they can do that against the Jets tomorrow. I think they will. So number 1, once again, it is your reigning and defending Super Bowl champions, the New England Patriots. And with that puts a wrap on this edition of NFL Saturday. I want to thank you all so very much for tuning in. Of course, sometime later on, I'm not sure when exactly, but I will be joined I should be joined at some point by Michael Bullock, as we will have our WWE Hell in a Cell pay-per-view preview edition of the Wrestling Forum. So check that out. I'll let you know as soon as he arrives, and we'll get the ball rolling on that. So until then, it's Anthony Florio here saying, the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Fortune 4 style. It's a bye for now, and until later on, until my Hell in a Cell preview video with Bullock later on, you've been watching this special edition of Strictly Sports NFL Saturday right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube.com. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Enjoy your NFL Saturday, and for now, or your NFL Sunday rather. And for now, Anthony Florio. So long.